Should at least sing that one time before the end of the day after you see the Stephen King. Because it's going to be called My Speech to Stephen King. Should read that. Written by the one and only John Newton. He's a far better writer than you'll ever be. Or you ever tried to be with your little comic strip fiction. You know what? I don't even know how Tabitha King looks at you in the face. Because I know that's not her real last name. Her last name's not Tabitha King. She has a different last name, doesn't she? I don't even know how she looks at you. To be honest, I don't know how anybody looks in your skeleton face. Walking around 4 or 5 hours a day so you come up with some creative idea to spook some teenager. Why don't you read that right there, Amazing Grace. Written by the one and only John Newton. That might help you before you go to your grave. Which you'll be going to pretty soon. Sooner or later it'll happen, because this life is over with in a flash. In a flash. It's over with in a flash. It'll happen. You can't prevent it. So read up. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. There you go. Enjoy. So you being a writer and creating all these characters and circumstances and worlds that you've created, you should know that me shouting at the devil or shouting at you just gives you more power. And that's true. So would the movie Escape from Maine, but you know that there are religious elements in it, and you know that there are evangelical messages in it. So whether you are strong enough or you come to the Lord quick enough, then we'll decide whether or not we can really do it. But we don't have to ask your permission to do a movie or to do a story, because it is a movie. That's based on my real thoughts and ideas that I had and the things that I really went through when I was in Maine, and then I riffed on it and did a little fiction on the side, which is nothing wrong with that. Isn't that what you do anyway? You're not the only writer in the world that has the right to have a Hollywood movie based upon one of their books. And you're not the only writer in the world that has the right to even write a book. You're not the only writer in the world. You're not the only creative person in the world. Yes, you've had some problems. So have I. We've all had our problems. And I'm sure my day will come when this will happen to me. And I'll remember, because you were bitter at one time. I remember you hated Kubrick's version of The Shining. And you were bitter at one time. You were bitter about things at one time. So I'll remember me being bitter. Just as you're probably still bitter now. Most of the writers stay pretty bitter. They're sweet and sour. Anyway, I'm not going to ask permission because I'm not that stupid. I know that if it's going to be done, it'll have to be done, and we'll find the funding to pull off this huge feat that I'm in the process of writing. I don't expect any type of advance. I don't expect anything that you got when you were moving up. But you lived in very rough circumstances. I have to admit, living in Maine is hard. It's a hard, cruel, cruel life. It is not pleasant at all. That's why I escaped. Pick up Wendy's, dropping it off at your door. Use your order. It's like several kids' nuggets, regular spicy, all these French fries, all this stuff. Lady could barely even take it. Then there's like a strawberry and a strawberry. Well, I don't know. I think they make the strawberries back there, but I'm trying to think of the two right here. It's a Barb's root beer and I think a high C. Let's see if they have it. I don't know. Let's see. Go back to the medium. Barb's root beer is definitely there. That was a diet though. It's a regular. They got the Minute Maid. They got the AHA, and they got all this. Don't see, I see. I don't think that, yeah, they're out of it. Okay, so what's similar? Go with the Minute Maid choice. Zero sugar. I think they said high C. I'm trying to try this one. Can't see if it, there we go. Yeah, it's been Minute Maid. We'll go with the orange. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Show you how to do this. I use this thing right here. I kind of put it in here. And these things you can invent as you go. They'll probably invent some of these things for bags. These work pretty good. Provides a little bit. Folds right in there. I can even put some napkins in here. Creates a little bit of friction. There's different friction that you can get from that space, so that keeps it solid. Keep it zipped about that much. Now we gotta run from the copyright. Literally. And I keep kind of level when I'm walking. So I keep it pretty level. It's like a water boy. My friends played water boy when we did Good Woman at Szechuan. I was the pilot because my drama teacher favored me and wanted me to be the lead and everything as much as he could. At least we did Rivers and Ravines, and it was an ensemble cast, so I really liked that one. So we got to do ensemble. Got to work together. He always wanted me as a star because I was kind of a skateboarder, just closer to a dancer that you could get. All right, we got all that. Later, I'd study dance, ballet, jazz, modern, even Alvin Ailey. I didn't know Madonna studied Alvin Ailey. Pretty, never mind. I don't want to get into that. All right, and we're headed off. We love Texas. Common problem, this is a common problem. Everything's rung up correctly. I'm putting in 3466. They're not liking it. My suggestion, so that you can go forward for the day, mess around with the numbers. Either by 1 penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies. Try going by 10 or a nickel, and redo it through there. Don't reprint another thing. Don't try to run it through. Show it to the manager. Make sure everything's correct. Match it with your app. If you show the app to the manager, that's fine. Make sure it works, and then because of inflation or whatever, try running it through as 3366, which is what I'm about to do. The office, it's called an 11th. It's called an 11th. So it's an imaginary number that makes everything kind of fit. So you have to 11th it. If you ever watch The Office. Hello. Good. I'm gonna get the drinks for you. Just give me a moment. Might want to grab these first.
Yeah.
And then I got you some napkins.
All right. Appreciate it.
Well, I can say one thing. It's slightly raining. I thought this Oscars was a good year, 2023. We're on March 14, 2023. I thought it was a good year. I mean, you know, there's classic years in the Oscars. You know, I think 72 was one of them. The Godfather era. Look at this guy's nut. Oh my God. What in the world? Just barely making it across. There's all these years that went by. I remember the year Fight Club was nominated. I thought that was a kind of a good year. I did like, I haven't seen all the movies. I'm not going to do catch up. I first got a hold of The Fabelmans. I usually always watch Best Pictures around this time. I usually get as many of them as I can before the ceremonies, but I don't know if they did it early this year or if it was just me, but I'm behind. So out of all of them, oh, got a message. Okay. Out of all of them, it's just The Fabelmans that I've seen. So I don't even know how brilliant everything, everywhere, all at once may be, you know. And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't even seen Parasite yet. And Parasite won a few years back. I'm still wanting to see Parasite. Now, the Asian community is ripping it up when it comes to getting Oscars. The Asian community over the last 3 or 4 years, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, has big time excelled over American cinema. They are amazing. We're talking Korean directors, Chinese directors. I'm sure Japanese directors will get behind it. Their acting is far beyond what the actor studios sometimes even produce. I'm not saying that actor studio hasn't produced amazing acting this year. We have Brendan Fraser winning the best actor this year coming. This year it's already happened, and I haven't seen it yet. But I seen the trailer and I knew immediately, like that, I can spot a best actor nominee at least, like that. And right when it came, I'll tell you this: out of all of them, even The Darkest Hour, which was Gary Oldman, that one I pretty much knew immediately. And then some of them I've been wrong about, but when I saw the trailer, I was blown away by the film. This is only the trailer's like a minute long, or less than a minute. It was like an AdSense trailer. It wasn't like a full trailer. I had to go back and find the full trailer on YouTube. But when I saw that performance, I was like, boom, best actor. There's no way he will win that. Meaning best actor, there's no way anyone's going to compete with that. And I was right. So I was right, and most people were. about Brendan Fraser's performance of Charlie in The Well. So it's like, boom, immediately. So you can tell. But not every year you can do that, you know. There Will Be Blood is kind of another one with Daniel Day-Lewis. There's a lot of them, which I always thought Daniel Day-Lewis should have won for Gangsters of New York. I know he's won 3 times. My Left Foot being one, and There Will Be Blood, I think, being another. Was it Gangsters of New York? Name of My Father, maybe? The one that I know of, the three-time winners, and usually they're all 3-time winners, okay, that you remember. Like Meryl Streep is one of them. Jack Nicholson has won 3. I do a thing with Jack Nicholson so I can remember it. It's called OAT. Like O-A-T or O-T-A or whatever. The word OAT. O-A-T. It's like a mnemonic. It's a memory device. So I'm thinking, what is the O? Okay, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. What is the A? As Good as It Gets. And what is the T? Terms of Endearment. So I always remember Jack Nicholson's 3 because they're hard to remember. Because I always think, didn't he win for The Shining? No. He won for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is O. A, he won for As Good as It Gets. And T, he won for Terms of Endearment, which I believe was a supporting. They usually get a supporting one, too. No one has won more than 3, but Katharine Hepburn. I think Diane Salinger should play. I think it would be good for Diane. She played Simone in an all-time classic, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and don't doubt it, because who has won the Oscar? Who just won the Oscar this year for Best Supporting? That's right, Short Round. And he had a great speech. Brought me teary-eyed. Everything changed when I saw that. I thought, you know, the Academy has put themselves in place. The Academy has kind of straightened themselves up a little bit. They used to be big-time commercial ripoffs. Not that Steven Spielberg's won that many Oscars. He's only won, I think, 1 or 2? Was it for directing and for Best Picture? I believe, yeah, for Schindler's List, it was definitely a Best Picture that he won for. I think directing, too. I'd have to go back and see. Yeah, Spielberg doesn't have a whole big, you know, shelf of Oscars. He only has a couple. I could be wrong. I got to go back and look. He might have some for producing and stuff like that. We'll have to see. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I could be really wrong about that. It's hard to figure out. You have to do all the math and statistics. But they've really put themselves in place, because this year, when Judd Hirsch didn't win, which I thought he would, because he's such a mature actor now. He's in his last stages of his career. Let's just face it. And it'd be nice to see him win. But he sat there politely. Everyone was smiling. Spielberg clapped. And, you know, when Short Round won, when Quan went up there and thanked his mom, his 84-year-old mom, and was in tears, 38 years that man waited. He got Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And he has a great role, classic role, and then Goonies for Data. Other than that, he's done small little stuff for 38 years. He even got into stunt choreography, you know, while he waited. And then he landed something, probably took it out of survival. Said, look, I'll go up there and audition. And he's a great actor. He's a great actor. Right on cue. Even when he goes up there, he wins your heart. See, he's one of those people, he walks up to you, he just wins your heart over. Those are good actors. Just like Harrison Ford does, too. When Harrison Ford went up there and gave a speech, I felt kind of bad for talking over him. You know, in my living room, I cut some of that. So they wouldn't let me post everything. They content blocked my 30-minute Oscar party. Harrison Ford going up there and talking. His voice is so dynamic. But anyway, Quan goes up there, thanks his mom, and immediately I went, wait a minute, this is going to be a different Oscar. Now, The Whale was not nominated, which I thought probably should have been. I thought, well, maybe Women Talking will win. You know, I was thinking, okay. And immediately knew that Fabelmans wasn't going to win. But I rooted for Spielberg because I know Spielberg's an old soul. He's one to respect. And I've been so disrespectful throughout my time. I've been a disrespectful brat, I have to admit. But this was about his family. This is something he sat down with Tony Kushner to spend a lot of time on. He wasn't joking around. It was a serious film. It wasn't like his action-packed E.T. films and his, his brilliance when it comes to the big mecha, the big old films that he makes, And he lost, but he smiled and he clapped. One of his actors won, short round won. And this is a lesson to Steven Spielberg in history. A lesson in history in the making of one of his small little actors. It's a little guy that he worked with. Not a big deal. It's a little guy, And he helped him out. Hey, Temple of Doom, they needed short round. Goonies, he was behind Goonies. A great time classic. Everybody loves Goonies. All of a sudden, he steps up in front of Spielberg and takes the, Judd Hirsch is sitting there going, oh, man. Because they want it. They want to win it. It's a great award. It kind of validates their life. Judd Hirsch going back in Taxi, it's a shame. I hate to say, I'm not going to say it's his last chance. Judd Hirsch is a tough person. He's a tough guy. I think he's got another role. I'd offer him Burt Chavett's role. I've got Larry David on the board, Woody Allen, and Judd Hirsch. That I can audition for. That I would like to offer it to. And I've got another guy, my mime teacher too, but he's a heck of an actor. He's a heck of an actor. He's right up there with Judd Hirsch for sure, and everybody knows it. But he looks exactly like Burt Chavett. That's the weird thing about it. Not Judd Hirsch. I'm talking about my mime teacher. Runs a little theater by the lake. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get funding and do the auditions. I know they'd all be great. But no one looks more like Burt Chavett's than this guy that I'm talking about. I mean, exactly. They look exactly the same almost. Like they could be brothers. And I know him too as a teacher of mine. Those dogs are so shy. My message to Richard Beato, the great music teacher and scholar, and once band member, about Bowie. Bowie did hit the #1 chart, and he was a master at creating the masterpiece, when it came to music. But he didn't really want that. He wanted something that would work, for one thing, and then he was a writer, but at heart he was a visual artist. He liked to dress up. Even when he was sitting there playing right next to Billy Corgan, he was having a time of his life, and I thought he outshined Billy Corgan, standing right next to him vocally, because he liked to play characters. David Bowie was nearly beat to death when he was a kid, because he could sing, and he was a good-looking champ. He was very good-looking, better looking than most. He was nearly beat to death in the schoolyard. From that point on, I think he wanted to be somebody else. He wanted to play someone else, and through his music, he did that. He played these characters, and he was one of our greatest actors. So that's why he could hit these charts, is because he wanted something that would work, and then he would sing over it and play. He treated the guitar like a toy. Look at him in 5 years. Or not, he's already passed away, but in the song, I believe it's called 5 Years. It was one of my favorites. When he's talking from the alien's point of view, saying that the earth only has 5 years, drinking milkshakes, long and cold, or something like that. Cold and long, drinking milkshakes, cold and long. It was like he was speaking dialogue. talking to the audience, but he sang it, and he meant it. He was an actor at heart. He was an arlecchino. He was a harlequin. He was those things at heart. So he was just playing around. And that does a whole lot when you're up there at the mic. Now, another note to Richard Beato about All the Young Dudes, which was also written by David Bowie. Davy Jones. But David Bowie wrote it. And it does have these weird chorus. But what I compare it to first when I hear it is the Beatles from Sgt. Pepper's album. And also, it rings the Queen. If you listen to Queen's guitar sound, the way the guitar resonates is very similar to how Queen sounded. And they would later work together. Freddie Mercury and Bowie would work together. But I hear the Beatles in that song. Some Beatles songs from Sgt. Pepper. All the young dudes carry the news. Ba, 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 ba. So it has this kind of stepping ladder moment. I was playing it the other day on the guitar myself, or at least a segment. I wrote a song. I don't know if I'm going to record that song, but I wrote a song that's a little bit based on what you were talking about. And I take a lot of my music from little bits and pieces of other music, well, just like Bowie did, and just like they all do. But it is a stepping stone, so it starts to climb and go down the minor and the major, the minor and the major, and then the major, and then check back to a minor, and then a minor, and then back to, I think, a major. And then there's a change, a complete change, where there's a key note change. And I do agree with that. There is an odd sensation, which Bowie always brought about, which kind of lifted your eyebrows and think, well, where's this song going? And that's how Bowie was, because he wanted it to work. And I don't know if he was the great musician like many are, like Beethoven or Mozart, but he certainly knew that he could tweak the guitar, play around with it a little bit, and then put music on top of it, lyrics on top of it, and make those lyrics work. And I think he had help too. I think there was people helping him make it sound epic. Don't know exactly how much of Bowie is in the music though. So I think he had band members and stuff help him. He would have the la la la, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. So he would have that part probably. And then they would tweak and lay down stuff, of course, like all great musicians do. They have these people that come in and lay down all this stuff on top of it to make it sound very professional. And he, do this or I'll starve to death, which is Bowie's anthem, because he was so very skinny. And they were, sure, Bowie, we will help you. Of course he will. Here, have this French fry. Don't want the French fry. All I'll have today are green bell peppers or red bell peppers and some milk. And they're like, okay, Bowie, we're going to play the drums for you. He was very skinny. Maybe 130, maybe 120 at times. He was very, very, very skinny. If you look at him in Space Oddity, it's kind of hard to really see him as even a person. He looks like a stick figure, and it's sad. Why, England is a very difficult place to live. The UK, very expensive. And to be an artist there is suicide. Even Mick Jagger didn't look very well in his early stages. Mick Jagger never really put on any really weight, ever. They're all the way from Oregon right here. But we doughboys in America sound heftier. I noticed there's a difference between the vocals of Billy Corgan and Bowie. It was night and day vocals. Billy Corgan, when he sang next to him, kept his Billy Corgan kind of harsh, his version of gothic. But Bowie's voice just opens up. There's nothing restraining it. He went past the extent of inhibition. He could let go of all. And this voice would come out, this soulful voice that not many singers have. Not even Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was more operatic. Bowie, it was like his soul was opening up, and it's scary to hear his voice. Don't know how he did it. But when he's saying, you listened and you knew it was him immediately, and no one could sound exactly like him, not even today. But yeah, that's some good stuff, though. All the young dudes. All the young dudes carry the news. La, la, la. If you can't hear the Beatles in that, you're crazy. There's Muds. There's the Legacy sign. That means I'll buy shops. Clear Fork. Shops at Clear Fork. The shops. Shopping. Shop till you drop at Clear Forks.